I've never been a huge fan of minis. Not that I had anything against them, but I just never really bothered spending any time with one. I've driven a few in the past, including a Resto Mod original Mini, but this particular one, the John Cooper Works 3-door, has really captured the kid in me. I, for one, think it looks great. Yes, it's rather long and not entirely mini, but it has a great stance and some playful styling, except for the rims, which look like plastic hubcaps. Thankfully, these minis are massively customizable, so you have lots of choice if you don't like what you see here. Now, this one, being the daddy of all minis, the JCW, has some pretty serious performance credentials. It does 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds and will hit a top speed of 246 kilometers an hour or 153 miles per hour. It does have electric power steering, but frankly, it feels better than what BMW is putting in its regular cars these days. But before we test it,
I'm going to start with the options. I don't usually do this. As you know, I'm more of a kind of take it, drive it, and see how it goes kind of guy, but this has to be talked about. Now, the base price is $33,700, which really isn't actually that bad. If you think about it, that's about the same price as a Subaru BRZ. And as you'll see a little bit later, this car is pretty much as fun as that and a lot faster, okay? Now, we have a visibility package. Rear view camera, park distance, $1,300. You don't need that. Cancel that out. Dynamic damper control. That's very cool with comfort access. This is the loaded package. Another $1,200. Wired navigation, $1,000. Don't need that. Upholstery, dynamic cloth combination, $2,250. Sport automatic transmission with paddles is $1,600. Now, as you'll see in a minute, it is worth it. I love a manual, but this is a good transmission. Okay, hold on. Harman Kardon sound system, which isn't actually that impressive, $750. Satellite radio, $450, and a whole bunch of other stuff. The black bonnet stripes are $150. That's worth it. You gotta have those. Now, that comes to $46,000. However, there are a bunch of standalone options on this Mini. Let's start with the carbon fiber tailpipe finishers. Those are $338.65 each. Okay, they look very cool, but that's a lot of money. The JCW floor mats, which look really good actually, are $130, $110. Additional headlights, the black LEDs, $575. Still haven't figured out how to turn those on in here. We've got door sill stripes, $300. Now, none of this matters. None of those options matter except for the JCW Pro exhaust system. This is an aftermarket option, and it costs $1,965. That's a lot of money for an exhaust. However, I'm going to start the car now, and I'm going to pull up what is effectively a nuclear launch trigger. Look at this. Okay? This is a portable trigger. It wirelessly sends a message to the exhaust system. When I double click this, it opens up the exhaust ports and it makes the exhaust incredibly violent and very loud. Do you have any idea what this does to the 8-year-old inside of me? It's time to go drive this car, because this is actually a deeply impressive vehicle. I actually completely adore this Mini. The Mini goes around corners in a deeply impressive way. This is on snow tires right now. I'm not even on a stiff sidewall performance tire, and it still just feels like this little 4-square thing on the road that refuses to lean or flip. All it wants to do is turn you around a really, really tight corner. Just like pulling out from a red light and turning right onto the road is fun. There's clearly a meeting at some point where they said, we need to make this car fun. That is the primary concern for the JCW Mini, is it must be fun. That was the first thing that they talked about, because everything in the car is designed to give you a fun experience. There's lights, things light up, there's ambient lighting, you change the modes, things get red or things get green, the steering stiffens up, the shifts are great, the sound that's coming in is amazing. I've got this exhaust button that I can push and it makes the car louder, and it's fast. So this is the B48 motor, 228 horsepower and 230-something pound-feet of torque. It's enough, is the answer. And this is a peach of a motor. It really is. It's the same as the B58 that you get in like the 340i BMW with 2 cylinders lopped off of it. This is the same engine, a direct injection, twin-scroll turbocharger that you get in the BMW 330i that I tested recently. I loved that engine and I love that transmission, and this feels very similar to that. There's actually no lag that I can tell. Okay, third gear, 4,000 RPM, boom, right there. It's immediate. Excellent, excellent engine. It sounds good too. There are some 4-cylinder turbocharged cars that really, really, really don't sound good at all. Camaro. Okay, but this one sounds excellent. Obviously, there's some stuff being synthetically piped into the car, which gets louder in sport mode. But I have my exhaust, which causes ridiculous backfires, and that's worth every penny. You gotta get that. You don't need navigation. You don't need a sunroof. You do need that $2,000 remote-triggered nuclear exhaust. Yes, now it's obviously front-wheel drive. That is not an issue at all, because whatever sort of vectoring is going on, you can plant your foot coming out of a corner like this. It just digs the front end, puts the power down, and off you go. Now, thankfully, the automatic transmission in this is just pretty much amazing, right? There's no other way for it. Look at that. Like nothing. The shifts are so fast for a DCT transmission. And the worst that I can do is 10 liters per 100 kilometers. The worst that I can do. Yes, obviously it can do much better than that, and I got it way down lower on the highway when I was actually trying to be economical. That didn't last very long, if I'm honest. It doesn't weigh very much, obviously, right? It is a Mini. No, it's not nearly as mini as the old Minis. We all know that. I don't need to be told that again by everybody. However, the advantage to this Mini being not very mini is that if you get in a car accident, you won't die. In terms of interior space, it's pretty good. I feel a little bit cramped sometimes. The bolsters, there's a nice spot for my arm here, that's fine. This armrest I find gets in my way more than it helps me, so I've been keeping it up and out of the way. The rest of the interior is quite usable, it really is. Some of the buttons and switches are a little bit confusing at first, but the system in the center here, with my little wheel, is just basically the same as iDrive and BMW. It's pretty intuitive. It's not quite as obvious how to use it as iDrive is, but it's a pretty good system. I haven't had an issue navigating around it, and there's a lot of menus and a lot of things that you can configure in this car. Going around, so turn around, a little hairpin. Oh my God, yep. You can feel the front start to push it a little bit under power, but it manages the torque so quickly and just keeps that front end turning in and in and in. It feels like it's being pulled in around the corner. With stickier tires on the front and a more aggressive alignment, this would be an excellent autocross car, actually. And it's fairly wide, but it just changes directions so quickly, and it feels short this way. Okay, it doesn't feel like a big, long car. You can feel the wheelbase in it. It's just fun. It's just fun to drive. The steering wheel is really nicely shaped. It's very small. The steering in the car is actually very good. Is it a fast rack? Yes, it actually is. It's not as fast as the older ones, but it is still a much quicker rack than just a regular car that you would be used to. So all of that together with the heavy steering weight, the way that they've managed to put the power to the ground in the front, means that this car just feels rock solidly planted to the ground in almost all scenarios. And I found that it seems to tend to naturally oversteer a little bit if you start to push it, right? You come off the throttle and the front end doesn't want to let go. It just keeps digging and digging and digging, even with snow tires. I've lost some of the sharpness because of the snow tires, but it's still very obvious how the chassis is and where the center of gravity is. It feels wide and low, and that is one of the best feelings that you can have in a little car. This car does not seem to be a usual contender for all the rest of the hot hatches, the Golf GTI and the Focus ST. You always see videos and people talking about those cars, but they don't bring this one in. I would have this one. Honestly, I would have this over a GTI. I would have this over a Focus ST. I think it's more fun. It's a more exciting car to drive. Everything about the driving experience was designed to be fun. Not very many cars prioritize full-on fun over everything else. this Mini absolutely does that. So there we go. The 3-door JCW Mini. This is a car that I would happily own.